The AI is incredible as a technology. The AI can draft better clauses than I can draft. Understanding what they're going to do to the industry, as soon as we stop innovating and providing value to an industry, the industry is no longer going to exist, in my opinion.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of More Than a Sale, where it's not just about the successes, it's about the struggles, the hardships, the failures to get to where you are today. And I have one such individual here with me. He's broker owner, he's a lawyer, he's a successful individual. He got his real estate license at 18 years old. He owns multiple properties. Ricky Rathore, how are you today?
Flattered. Thank you for having me, Ron. When I look back at my trajectory, I inadvertently got into real estate. I inadvertently opened up a brokerage, educating agents. I was teaching some of the courses. I genuinely believe that life is a constant journey of learning. And I think as soon as you stop learning, you start falling behind.
18 years old, you get your real estate license. You start your journey off with Remax. Why did you choose Remax?
As an individual agent, I can only help so many people. So associating yourself with the #1 brand and solve hundreds of problems. I had the real estate side of things. I had the financing side of things. Now, if I had the legal side of things, I had a real hammer to. The impact I can have is knowing that I've made a difference, especially with people dealing with their largest financial transactions. The impacts we make are for the betterment of society, and I want to see society succeed. God knows what's coming down the road.
Listen, we see you all over social media. We see the videos you make. You educate individuals. You teach them about law. I want to talk to you about your journey as a lawyer and as a broker owner. First off, how'd you get into the business?
Inadvertently.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that was expected. I was 18. My dad woke up one morning, said, we need to buy, we need to sell. Let's save some money. So I started the path of getting registered at that time. Now that I'm in my mid-30s, I'm realizing I was a problem child and he wanted to keep me busy.
Yeah.
Right? So hindsight's 20/20, right?
Okay.
So the goal was to keep me busy, and fortunately, I really liked it. After getting the education and realizing that whether I end up working as a realtor or not, having that education meant that nobody could take advantage of me.
Right.
So it was a source of power. It was a sword and a shield for me. If I went into the business, I would be able to do something for myself. If I didn't, at least I couldn't get taken advantage of. You hear all these stories, oh, that realtor's this, that realtor's that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be that. So after getting the real estate side of things, I started doing a couple of transactions here and there. Spiky hair, earrings, 18 years old. Right?
That was you?
That was me.
Okay.
And I remember a couple of deals went pretty smooth. And then deals didn't go so smoothly. And it was usually the mortgage side of things that I didn't understand. I was 18. I didn't own anything, I didn't rent anything. I lived at home with my parents.
Yeah.
So explaining a mortgage commitment to a client was rocket science back then.
Yeah.
And so after going through the motions, understanding what was involved there, I decided maybe I should get my mortgage agent license. And it wasn't because I wanted to underwrite mortgages or write mortgages. It was more so because I really wanted to understand what I was selling. And if a client's file wasn't progressing in a meaningful way, why was it not progressing? So I eventually became a mortgage agent.
Let me ask you this. Now, how old were you when your father said, okay, we need to buy properties, we need to invest in properties? How old were you at that time? 17, 18?
I think as soon as I turned of age, he was like, let's go get this license.
Wow. And what did your father do?
So he was a mortgage agent back then.
Okay, amazing.
He was a mortgage agent back then.
Amazing. So he kind of had a hindsight, and you said you were a problem child. Tell me a little bit about that. What does that mean? What kind of troubles were you causing?
Oh, nothing crazy, I guess, in today's day and age, but I wasn't focused, right? So for a typical South Asian household, a problem child is somebody who isn't doing well in school.
Okay.
Right? Who is hanging out at all odd hours.
Okay.
Coming home late night, without any sort of purpose.
Yeah.
And I think growing up, I was a kid that teachers said would amount to nothing.
Wow. And does your teacher particularly come to mind when they said you're not going to amount to anything? Or did you feel that way?
There's been a lot of influences in my life. I would say that growing up, I didn't care as much as I do now. And I think it was because I was lost. For a long part, it was just not understanding who I was, what the dynamics were that were at play. But I think that's life, right? That's how you kind of go through the ebbs and flows of life, and you really figure it out. It's a journey, right? That's what it is.
So now your father comes to you and says, okay, you know what, you got to get your real estate license. You're like, screw it, I'll do it. Or was it more of a, hey, if you do this, you're going to get this, or I'm going to give you this?
My dad's a very convincing man.
Yeah.
He's a loving, caring dad. And he said, look, whether you do anything for yourself with this or not, think about it. We'll save $30,000, $40,000 in commission here.
Okay.
You screw it up, we're not going to get sued. No big deal, right? What's the worst that'll happen?
Yeah.
Right? So I was in college and university at that time, working 3 jobs at the same time. And
wow.
I just I said, all right, I want to see what I can do for my family here. And it kind of just clicked. It made sense.
What kind of jobs were you doing?
I've done all kinds of stuff. I've worked at glue factories. I've worked at packaging. I was a delivery person. I've done anything and everything you can imagine.
And as now you have your real estate license, 18-year-old, 19-year-old real estate license, what's that like? Because I've had my license at that age and I have my own stories and my own experience of it when I got licensed at 19 years old. And so I would like to know from your perspective of what's it like, and the world can hear, what's it like having a license at 18 years old?
There's that saying that you can't trust someone who isn't living the American dream with the task of selling it to you. That's kind of how it was back then, right? I'm 18, don't own anything, don't rent anything. I live at home with my family. And here I am driving around trying to show people homes.
Yeah.
It's the biggest financial decision. They're looking at me like, really?
Yeah.
Right? But out of respect for my dad.
And he would give you clients from his mortgage business and then you would sort of service them, or were you also trying to market and advertise and get people to
It was a little bit
of
everything.
Got it.
And I think the first couple of deals were definitely tough to crack.
Yeah.
But as you get better and better at it, it's that edge that you can bring. So I'll give you an example. When I started doing deliveries, I remember all the drivers used to pull up at the warehouse at 5:30 in the morning. And they would have a manifest, and then they would take out a Pearlie's map book.
Yeah.
It would make the route for the whole day. Back then, I think it was the HTC Titan. I can't even remember the phone now. I feel like that's what it was. You could add 100 addresses in there and press optimize.
Wow.
So you had all these seniors that knew Toronto inside out, and then you had this junior walk in at 8 o'clock, load the truck, map all of the transactions, and then just boom. Last one in, first one out. Sorry. Last one in.
First one in, last one out. First one in, last one out. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Last one in, first one back.
Okay, cool.
Right? And so it's the innovation. And I think same thing happened with real estate. There were things where it was like, well, you would hear the bad stories about all the agents out there.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, what can I do to change this? So you start bringing your listing with a clipboard and a pen.
Yeah.
Right here, make notes of this. Check out these chattels. Make sure you open the fridge. You add that edge, you switch up the flavor a little bit. And I think when clients realized that it was this guy really cared, he understood it, not only from an academic perspective, but he got it.
Yeah.
That's when I started seeing transactions rolling.
What did your friends think of you when you first got your real estate license? Now you're an 18, 19-year-old kid. You're the same guy that's hanging around, going to the clubs or going to the bars, or ideally speaking, doing 18, 19-year-old old things. So what was their perception of you when you had your real estate license?
Well, my friends will tell you that I was the guy at the club with a 3-piece suit.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
And the line was, why do you look like? I just came back from showings.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the reality. And so I embraced it. Like I was a kid in university in a blazer.
So what's this image of you in a 3-piece suit? I'm curious. This is it. We see Ricky Rathore, we see 3-piece suit. That's it. That's your identity. Where did this identity come from?
I don't know. I don't know if it's an identity. It's a comfort now. Right?
Okay.
It's more so that genuinely I'm more comfortable in the clothes I wear at work than my own pajamas. I don't know how else to explain it. I get that question quite often, but it's just I'm very comfortable in the clothing I wear versus baggy clothing or too tight fitted clothes. Like this is just, it's easy for me. It's comfortable.
Why do I have a feeling that your pajamas are also 3-piece pajama style?
You wouldn't be the first person to say that.
I could totally imagine seeing you like that.
No, it's a comfort thing. I think that there's that quote, right, from Oscar Wilde where you can't be overeducated or overdressed.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like if I walk into a room and I look like this,
yeah,
I'm happy. I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
Like I'm just, this is me. This is who I am now.
And I think it's a great style. And I think no one rocks it better than you do. So you do an incredible job.
Maybe you, Ron, though. Maybe you.
I try to keep up with you. Let me ask you this now. You are 18, 19. You're in your journey. Now, obviously, you don't have your own brokerage at this point in time, I'm assuming. So what is your feedback or what is your perception of other broker owners that you're a part of now that you're in that same role and that position?
Yeah, I think it was interesting. So when I look back at my trajectory, I inadvertently got into real estate. I inadvertently opened up a brokerage.
Got it.
And a part of why I opened up a brokerage is because my accountant said, well, you don't have the luxury of a professional real estate corporation like some other professions. So your only way of deferring taxes or having a tax shelter is to open up your own company.
Yeah.
That's where the first brokerage came from. It wasn't like, okay, let's go out and hire a bunch of people now and then manage them.
Yeah.
Train and develop them. It was more so, okay, you can't do this as an individual. Open up a corporation. Your dad's working with you. Your partners are working with you. Just the 4 or 5 of you do your own deals.
Yeah.
Run a company. By that time, having all the other stuff going around, it was a perfect storm where I was educating agents. I was teaching some of the courses, and at a certain point, the relationships I was making with the people that I was talking to and working with, just it clicked. It was people that I wanted to work with. And so a company that wasn't supposed to turn into anything turned into about 150 agents in the first year and a half.
Incredible. And what's the name of this company?
That was, it was called Public Choice back then.
Okay, wonderful.
And so that doesn't exist today. We ended up going through a bunch of transitions, and a big part of the transition was in 2016 and 2017, when the Wynne government was in power, the market shifted. And when the market shifted, what we found was that top agents would complain and they would say, look, I have to spend 45 minutes in a presentation explaining what this company is all about. And that was the fork in the road before Remax entered the picture. And it was like, okay, I understand that I started with Remax for the same reasons that these agents are talking about. It was having that brand recognition and being able to bolster something and build on it. So if you're a Remax agent, you've got a balloon on your lapel, you get a seat at the table. You may not finish, you may not get the deal, but you'll get a seat at the table. You could be a top agent with a boutique that may not have a reputation. And all of a sudden it's a fight about, well, what's your organization all about? It's not even about the listing or the transaction anymore. It's about who are you and what do you represent?
Yeah.
That's where Remax came from. We figured that if we were going to franchise, we were going to go all the way to the top. We weren't going to do anything else. And that's how this came about.
I like that. Can you map out the journey for us, right? So 18 years old, you get your real estate license. You start your journey off with Remax, correct? So you start your journey off with Remax. Why did you choose Remax?
So Remax, it was because it goes back to that image and that I didn't have anything to sell.
Yeah.
So associating yourself with the number one brand meant that you didn't have to oversell.
Got it.
You got a seat at the table. Right? And that was important. And I think when I started out, there were a lot of challenges because the way I consumed and I learned the things that I learned were very different from how they were being organized and taught at that time. Training was usually repetitive. There were gaps that the industry had created. I think industry became complacent. And I mean, that's typical in any industry, in any business. So I think that when I started with resale, it was challenging, but pre-construction made sense. The first year, I think, where I really decided that this was for me was when I sold 40 units at the age of 18,
Wow.
made $250,000, and I think my life changed at that
And which
time.
project was this?
That was the Infinity Towers.
Okay, incredible.
Yeah, Infinity 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, wow. And now moving forward in your journey, when does Public Choice open up and how old are you?
I want to say Public Choice was probably right before law school. So I want to put it around 2011.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So around 2011. And how long did you have Public Choice before you decided that now I have to jump into Remax?
Yeah, so I think with Public Choice, we opened it with the intent of having that tax shelter, which made sense.
Yeah.
I went to law school. I came back, and then it started turning into something else. And it was by, I would say 2016, we were broaching the conversation. I would say by 2017, 2018, we had signed the franchise agreements with Chris Alexander and the team.
Yeah. Chris was, he's been a guest on our show as well. And so he was also, we were one of the first individuals that he signed when he was in that role altogether. Now, what made you want to go to law school? That's what I want to know. So you have this real estate thing. It's going really well for you. You seem to be making a lot of money. You're doing, you close 40 transactions in Infinity Towers. And you're like, holy crap, I'm on top of the world, as a 21-year-old or a 20-year-old individual. So what made you want to go to law school? What was that? Where'd that inspiration come from?
So I think the law school came from the fact that once I had gone and become a mortgage agent, I had that education. It was kind of filling things out. What we learned in college, in my opinion, even today, is how not to get sued. And so I figured family really wanted me to be a lawyer. My grandfather was a lawyer, and they always wanted me to be a professional, doctor, lawyer, engineer, typical South Asian household growing up. And so when the opportunity presented itself, it made sense and dots connected perfectly. I had the real estate side of things. I had the financing side of things. Now, if I had the legal side of things, I had a real hammer to work with. Yeah. And I think that's what prompted it. I didn't think I would make it through law school. Yeah. But it was challenging, and we got through it. And
so talk to me about that. What's it like juggling both Public Choice and law school simultaneously, or being a realtor and being a lawyer at the same time? What's that like? Because not everyone gets a chance to experience that. Could probably count on my hand of how many lawyer and realtors that I really know, and that's why you have such a unique combination. Tell everyone about what's it like juggling both at the same time. Are there complications, any hurdles, any challenges? Like, what are you experiencing?
I think with education, it doesn't matter what you get an education in, as long as you stay in school and you keep educating. That's key. You look at the bumper on my car, it says stay in school. Yeah. And it's not just for show. I genuinely believe that. Yeah. Life is a constant journey of learning. And I think as soon as you stop learning, you start falling behind. That's what I genuinely believe. So law school helped me really tie everything together. It's a huge asset to have a legal background, especially in this profession, because what we're dealing with is contracts, rights and obligations at the end of the day. The sales side of things, negotiation, conflict resolution, those are other skills that you also require. But having gone through law school, dealing with arbitration, mediation, understanding the legalese behind the contracts really helps me do things at a high level. And a level that I'm happy and satisfied with.
Got it. After opening up Remax, how did your life change? Because you shot out right through the mark. You know, you got Rookie of the Year, you were Broker Owner of the Year, awards on awards, and you had a very fast leap, and you became the fastest growing Remax in the GTA. And then you came out of nowhere. So number one, what's the pressure like in all of that? Number two, what's that journey look like? Share with me. Just tell me the details.
Yeah, I think starting out, any business, when you start out, it's day one, right? I think as a business ages, people forget about day one, that conviction, that passion that brought you to the business. Like, businesses beat you up. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Every day you're getting beaten up with something. But I think if you always remember why you started, and I think people over time lose that, which is why they lose that drive and why businesses start failing over time. I mean, there's obviously complications with anything, but starting out, definitely it's an immense pressure. There's a lot of adrenaline too, because it's day one. You're excited about what you're starting, right? It's you against the world, and you're going to get it done because you have a reputation to maintain.
Yeah.
So I think a big part of it was making sure that I made my family proud. That was important to me. My grandfather, like every day I would go and see him. We would have a drink from time to time, and he was my buddy. Like, he was a real friend. My dad, straight shooter, work hard, really, really great guy. Good family, good spirit, good heart. But my grandfather was my friend, and having a friend is different from having a father. So the role that me and my dad are getting to that stage now where we are more friends than we are father and child. But I think at the essence of it, I wanted to make sure that they were proud. And that's what it was. That's what kept me going, making sure my wife was happy, my family was proud of what I was doing. It's a huge trade-off being in any business, whether it's a law office, a mortgage agency, a real estate broker. It doesn't matter what business you're in. It's not your 9 to 5. That's not the punch in, punch out kind of thing that we're involved here. And there's going to be trade-offs. And if you don't have the right people, right motivation, right support, it's not possible to sustain any sort of business.
Your grandfather passed away recently.
Yeah.
And my sincere condolences.
Thank you.
How's that been on you? How are you?
I'm well. I'm okay, right? I think it's a reminder that as life goes on, it is short. You have to remember that. You have to embrace that. You can't just keep running. Like, there's more to it than working, I think. And I think that there's ebbs and flows for everything. But with my grandfather passing, it was a reminder that life is short. It's a reminder that no matter what you do, you put 100% into it. Because if you don't put 100%, you can look back and regret. And my biggest thing growing up, I think there was a switch that flipped in my head one day where it was like, all right, I can either go and do this and half-ass it, or I can do it and put 100% into it. And if I can tell myself that I tried my best and it didn't work out, no issue, I can move on. Otherwise, you always look back in hindsight and said, oh, if I did this differently or I did that differently, maybe this could have been different. My philosophy has always been to just put 100% into it. And I got that from my grandfather. He said, whatever you do, just try your best. We're all here. We support you. That's all that matters.
If you could tell him one thing now, what would that one thing be if you had one moment to sort of share with him?
Just that, we all love him and we all miss him. That's it. And he's a great guy.
You were telling me about your father as well. What's the dynamic like between you and your father? Are you guys on the same page sometimes? Are you guys butt heads? Are you competitive with one another? Tell me a little bit about that.
It's interesting because I think growing up at a young age, obviously the parent's got to be a parent, right? You're not going to want to be buddies with your 13-year-old or your 15-year-old, right? You got a parent. That's tough. And I think that, when you go through parenthood, you go through these kind of transitions in life, like things will shift. There was a point where after completing university, the relationship started changing because it was weird almost where my dad was now asking me questions that I would typically ask him. So it's like, hey, if we want to do this, what should we do? And it's like, oh, that's new.
Yeah.
I don't want to be accountable for these decisions.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not a role reversal, but it's like, hey, like maybe you know something I don't know now.
Yeah.
Right. What do you think? That was an interesting transition for me.
Yeah.
Now it's like, we'll constantly, like friends, work things out, figure things out. We're constantly connected and just moving forward together. Right? It's a partnership.
Do you think you've become the person that they had imagined you to be? Do you think they're proud of you?
I'm sure. I would hope that they're proud of me. I'm sure they are. Right? I mean, I'm told that they're proud of me, of course. Do I think that I've hit my full potential? No. I think I'm probably just getting started, and I think there's a long road ahead. Whether it's business or personal life, I think, driving a successful business, being profitable, those are all great things, but there's other things that go hand in hand with that. If you have a big pile of money at the end of it, but you've got nothing else, it doesn't matter. What are you going to do when you're 85 and there's no one else around you? It doesn't matter. Right. So it's that understanding that life is short, understanding that it's more than just working, but focusing on the things that make you passionate and tick.
So what are you passionate about?
I'm passionate about work. It's a weird place, right? For me.
What aspect of work? I mean, there's a work of doing, there's a work of learning. And then of course we can say it's a combination of everything because it really is, What aspects of this work are you really passionate about? There are things that we like to do and there are things that we don't like to do. What aspect of the work that you truly enjoy, that you're really like, wow, I would love to do more of this?
It's very interesting. I think for me, work is an outlet. I'm going to answer your question.
Yeah.
I think for me, work is an outlet. A lot of people in trying and tough times will resort to drugs and alcohol. For me, I resorted to just working harder. So if you look back to my socials and you see me at the office at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, that's me. Something's happening in my life and I'm just grinding away because that's my outlet. So work for me is different than I think other people because it's an outlet for me. It's an ability for me to put something out that makes a difference in my life and the lives of others. In terms of what I like and dislike about work, I mean, obviously, I don't think anybody likes paper pushing. It's not for most people. It is for certain people that really like that kind of a grind and hustle. But for me, I think what I really like about it is the difference I'm able to make with the knowledge that I bring to the table in certain situations. What I don't like about it is that it is work. Like you do have to grind away. If I could just sit there and solve problems all day long, that would be great. But there's other things. There's growth. There's profit and loss statements. There's balance sheets. There's so many other things. Compliance, RICO audits. Who doesn't love that?
Competitors,
right?
Yeah.
So you've got so many different things that what I would define as work, and then you've got things that this isn't work. This is just me and my element, right?
Yeah. When we move forward into Remax Metropolis, it's what you've done with the company is phenomenal. And we all, when you and I sit offline and when we hang out as friends or we meet each other at events, and we always end up in a very long conversation about life. We always end up in a long conversation about growth, development, things that I'm working on, things that you're working on. And it never feels that there's, animosity. It's just, it comes out of a good place from both of us. You share a bunch of things. I share a bunch of things. You'll call me about a question and it's supposed to be a quick 5-second, 30-second answer, but we're on the phone for like 30, 40 minutes and just shooting the shit, Do you think Remax Metropolis is there where it needs to be or is headed in that direction? What more would you want out of the company, or what would you think the next steps are for Metropolis, or where do you sort of see the brokerage business?
I don't think it's ever going to be complete. In a dynamic and tumultuous marketplace, it's not just the market that drives things, it's also the business. You wouldn't be sitting having a podcast like this 15 years ago. We don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. And so I guess that's a part of the challenge that makes this job interesting, right? Like you almost have to have the foresight to see what's coming, but also manage and maintain whatever you've got going on, deal with a bunch of personalities, deal with a lot of stuff that's happening in the back end, and then just remind yourself, well, you have to go back to your why. Why are you doing this? What is it that you're trying to achieve? And at a certain point, it's not about the money, because I'm sure there's other jobs where I could make a lot more money than I make now.
So what is your why?
I think the why now is making that difference, right? As a single agent, and I think this is the switch that flipped on at a certain point in my career where as an individual agent, I could only help so many people. I can only do so much. As a broker of record, I can now support hundreds of people and solve hundreds of problems with my staff, my team, my managers, my admin. The impact I can have is far greater. I'm not curing cancer.
Yeah.
But I go to sleep knowing that I've made a difference, especially with people dealing with their largest financial transactions, and entrusting either myself or my team members with that is important to me. That's my why.
So now imagine, well, you probably deal with this already. There's no imagining over here as a broker owner. You are passionate about helping others. You're going out of your way to support an agent. You're doing anything and everything you can do to create platforms for them, provide them with opportunities to be successful. And they come to you and they sit down in front of you. Mr. Rathore, Ricky, it's not working out for me. I think I need to go find another place, or I need to try out another thing altogether. Rather than the answer you give them, how do you feel in that moment?
Oh, definitely. I mean, when you see, it is a relationship business. And I think when you put everything into a relationship. From my perspective, I put everything into it because I don't live in regret. I know that with every day that I'm going into the office and waking up and doing what I'm doing everything I can to support my team members. Sometimes it's not enough. Real estate isn't for everybody. And usually I find that if you can't make it at a firm like mine, you can't make it anywhere else. You'll go other places. You might end up back with Metropolis. You might end up leaving the business. But it's rare to see someone leave an organization like mine and then do better than they were doing previous, because we know what the business looks like. We understand the systems and models. And every day that I'm waking up, it's about how do I push on further? How do I make it easier for the agent to focus? Just like you. I mean, the business model is to make sure that you provide the agents with the tools that they need so they can focus on the things that they love about the jobs, not necessarily the things that are work, right?
What are some of the challenges as a broker of record that the world doesn't know about?
It's the liability, right? And I think that in itself is the biggest challenge with being a broker of record. It's having to deal with the compliance, the FinTrack, the RICO. There's so much that people don't understand and appreciate that goes into this. It's just like, oh, okay, use this app. All right, cool. So as an agent, it's easy to put together a deal, but the checks and balances, the things that go into all of this, and then it's my signature on the file at the end of the day. So if there's a complication, if there's a problem, it doesn't matter that the agent did it. I'm responsible.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. That's pressure. That's the pressure.
Would you say you've changed the brokerage game? Would you say that you've changed the identity of what a broker of record should be or should look like?
Maybe. I'm sure I've contributed just like you have. I think what's great about our industry is that when the next Ricky Rathore comes up or the next Ron Sally comes up, we're just pushing each other further and further. And that's really incredible about this business because you can't become complacent. You can't sit and stagnate. It's constantly changing. The brokerage models are constantly changing. You've got all these competitors now that have changed the model. And at the end of the day, the essence of you wanting to sell real estate at a high level, there's very few brokerages, in my opinion, that can enable you to perform at the level that an agent should perform at because people are distracted. They're distracted with other things that aren't related to the actual transaction. But maybe that's how the business is evolving. I think there's going to be a shift in the paradigm. We're seeing it. And I think that the people that want to sell real estate will sell it at even higher levels. The people that are just looking to run a side hustle while they sell real estate will go in a different direction. So there is a shift. We're seeing it. And I think that the agents that have just continued to crush it will continue to crush it as long as they keep leveling up and evolving.
What would you say, or what would you advise an agent on how to be successful in this business? You know, how do you define success? I would like to know. Because there's so many metrics of measuring success. Is it the money? Is it the number of transaction? Is it the client satisfaction? Is it the reviews? You know, there's different metrics of measuring that success. What does success look like to you for an agent?
We all need money, Ron. I think we all need money. Without money, you can't do anything. That's the society that we've built for ourselves. And so I know agents that have made a ton of money in a year or two, and then they're nowhere to be seen. Can't just be about the money. I think money is a part of the reward. It's a need. But I think that success in this business is the impact that you've made. Think about it. People come to agents to find home. My measure of success is, have you integrated a family or whoever you're dealing with in a community which they belong in? And how is that going to accentuate their living experience, their lifestyle? Because everything starts from home. Family starts from home. Community starts from home. Society starts from home. So if home isn't where the heart is, right? That's the cliche. Then what's the point of what you're doing? So if you can't do that at the highest level, I think that's where you're dropping the ball.
And what would you say when you meet an agent? Can you predict whether an agent is going to be successful or if they're going to fail? Can you sort of see it firsthand when they first come in an interview when you're sitting down with them?
I think, from a young age, I learned that people can change, right? Like you have people you dislike and you meet them years later and they're totally different. I don't think you can write people off. You can't write anybody off because what you're experiencing in the moment on that particular day may not be a true reflection of who you are. I think at the essence of it, if you're a good person, you have a willingness to learn, you've got grit to adapt, you'll be just fine. So that's what I look for in an agent. Somebody's coming to me from another brokerage and they're like, I'm my top agent and I've got everything down. Why are you coming here then? There's other Remax offices. Am I going to be able to enable your growth? Or are you just looking to come here and negotiate commissions with me because you're a top agent?
Yeah.
So it's that mindset. For me, the goal is to recruit, train and develop agents and push them further.
Yeah.
I don't want people that don't get it, that don't jive on the same wavelength as me. Because if I'm the quote unquote teacher, but then you don't want to learn the lessons that I'm trying to teach, then it's not the right fit, right? It is a give and take. There's tons I learned from my team members as well. But at the end of it, if you're stuck in your ways, you don't want to evolve. It's a tough place. It's a tough business. And I'd rather you not be at my firm.
Knowing what you know now, if you had to start Remax Metropolis from scratch, knowing what you've known now, gone what you have gone through, how would you go about things?
I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
Truly, because I give it 100%. I don't give myself the ability to regret anything. You can't predict everything, right? If I tweaked one thing and not the other, if I had foresight or hindsight, I mean, what's going to happen is going to happen, right? It's like an Avengers movie. You take out, you mess something up in time and all of a sudden it's going to have an unconsequential, you know, so the impacts of being like, it's a really nice idea to think that if I could go back and redo this, I would change X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
I haven't given myself that opportunity, I think. And truly, I think that if it weren't for the challenges that I faced, I wouldn't have been able to build what I built today. So I don't regret those at all. I'm happy for those sleepless nights. I'm happy for those 3 a.m. sessions at the office. I'm happy for the struggle because they define and make me who I am today. And that will pivot me and help me propel into the future.
So what's next for Ricky Rathore?
I don't know. We're just going to keep evolving. We're going to keep adapting.
What does evolution look like to you? When you say adapting, are you sort of watching the trends and trying to keep up with the trends, or are you trying to create your own trends? Like, you know, where's your foresight or insight into the industry of real estate? I have my own theory of things, and you know, I'd love to hear yours.
I think at the end of the day, we're all going to need a place to live. Whether you rent it or you own it, it's that Maslow's hierarchy we learned about in Oria, right? I'm sure they're still teaching at Humber. So this is it's not a nice thing to have.
Yeah.
It's a need, right? I don't think anybody chooses to be homeless per se. So that's not changing. How we transact in real estate may change, but I think that's on us as broker owners, as agents. What will happen with real estate as a profession in the future is in your hands. If agents want to go out and continue to articulate and provide value, we'll have a place. If we can't continue to do that at a high level, we won't have a place. We've seen so many businesses and industries that have fizzled away because the idea was that, oh, you can't replace me. Anything can be replaced. And I think with technological advancements and things that are coming down, it'll be easier and easier to replace a lot of different positions in real estate and outside of real estate, right? The AI is incredible as a technology. As a lawyer, the AI can draft better clauses than I can draft. So understanding how to use these tools, understanding what they're going to do to the industry, and then making sure that the agents are constantly batting above average is important, because as soon as we stop innovating and providing value to an industry, the industry is no longer going to exist, in my opinion.
What's been a major setback in your life? Something that comes to mind where kind of threw you off or put you off for a little bit or demotivated you, or just something that like kind of fuels you now when you think about it? What would you say that setback looks like to you?
I would say COVID was a major setback, but it was for a lot of people, right? I think I remember I had fish tanks at my offices. So I went to each office and picked up fish from each location. And I go home and I've got this big tank and I'm putting all these fish in this tank. And I sit down at my kitchen table with my wife across from me, and this is work for the next couple of weeks. I remember sitting there thinking, what on earth is happening? And so that was, I think it was a setback for everybody, but I feel like a lot of people that came out of that punching. So although it was a setback, I feel like it was an element that was added into the marketplace and in my business that really helped me figure out the things that didn't work very well, the things that were broken. Oh, employees can't work remotely. So what are we going to do? Do we lay everybody off?
Yeah.
Talking to other broker owners, I had to lay off 2 people. Yeah. I'm waiting for my benefits to come in from the government. I'm waiting for this much money. I don't know how to pay rent. That was a kick in the teeth. What about you?
You don't even want to hear this story. Okay. I thought I was done. I'm like, this is it. Just began. Already have everything stacked up against me as a broker owner. Everyone's thinking you're going to fail because this is what was stacked up against me. You know, you're 25, 26 years old. I think I was 27 at the time. So I had this lay bag. Lay bag is when you open it up, you move it around and it captures air, and then you close it up and it becomes a bag. And I bought this in Australia when I had traveled, and you can put it anywhere. So I do this, I put it in my backyard, and I go inside. I take half a bottle of tequila, I put it in the mixer. I put, the other mixtures. I make a nice margarita for myself. And you know what? After I taste the margarita, I go back, I open it up again, I put the rest of the bottle of tequila inside of it. And this is me sitting on my lay bag with a whole jug of margarita, my glass, and I'm drinking it, and I'm day drinking. And I'm doing this for like at least every single day because I don't know what the hell to do anymore. You know, I'm like living the drunk life at this point. I don't drink anymore, by the way. I'm 260 something days sober. Wow. So, and while I'm sitting down on this lay bag, I'm drinking, In my second week of being day drunk, an idea, eureka moment just occurs. If I'm doing this, someone's probably doing this too. I get up, I say, okay, Ron, think. And now I'm frantically drunk thinking, okay, what could I do? What could I do? I'm like, I need to go harder than anybody else at this point in time. This is my competitive advantage. This is the opening. And it's like, when the light just opens up altogether, and I had that aha moment right away. I got down, I stumbled right into my office, write down a bunch of ideas. And the first idea that I had was I'm going to do more trainings than normal. I'm going to have all these Zoom sessions, Zoom parties, online things. I'm going to figure out a way that we can use things and do things and just motivate these agents and all together. And then I'm going to start hiring. I'm like, look, your brokerage is shut down. Look at what we're doing as a brokerage. We don't let anything stop us, but we're doing it in a safe manner, whatever that is, all together. So it's interesting, but the size of the office was different at that time. The dynamics were different at the time. Now, when you have like 3-4 locations, or you have, a high number of agents compared to at that point in time, the moves are going to be very different if I had to do it again. And I don't know how I would do it again, but I'm sure I'll figure out a way, because that's what we do. One way or the other, you figure out a way. There is no dying. You can drink for a couple of days and feel sorry for yourself because you think your life is over and your career is over, but you do realize that it's just not in you. You just either have it or you don't. And I'm not going to take no else. And I'm not going to take no for an answer. And if I lose, no problem, I'll get back up. And that's the mentality that I've always carried. And I had great influence in my life, which was my father. And so, you learn those things as you're on, that you just don't take L's. You can take L's, but you gotta also, you just need that one win, and so, yeah, that was me during COVID, where I thought everything was over altogether. I want to ask you, what motivates you? So who's a big inspiration in your life? Who's a mentor that you've had that made a significant impact in your life? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, definitely my grandfather. I mean, he was a big motivation for me. I think for a lot of people. He's a captain of the army, lawyer, done a lot of stuff for a lot of people back home. Definitely a massive motivator. My partners are motivators for me. My wife is a huge inspiration for me. It's the people that I surround myself with. I think there's a lot of negativity in the business. There's a lot of negativity in any business, really. So knowing that home base is safe, it's secure, and people that genuinely care, whether it's the L or whether it's whatever's happening, they're with you. They're your ride or die people, right? So I think that's what it is. That's what it comes down to. And I work the way I do for them.
Has there been a movie that you've watched or a book that you've read that always stays with you, and that's your dream character in the book, or a big lesson that you're like, this is one thing that I will always remember, and it's part of who I am? What would you say that is?
I don't think there's one in particular, but what I do think is that people spend lifetimes writing books. People literally spend lifetimes writing books. All you need to do is pick it up and read it. In a couple of days, you can absorb a lifetime's worth of knowledge. So the way I see it, and that's why I'm such a advocate for staying in school, whether it's in school or just educating, just constantly learning. You've got an incredible opportunity with literature. You've got an incredible opportunity with content. People have put their life's work. All you need to do is read it. 10 pages a day, you've done 20 books a year. That's it. Just broaden your perspective. I think in this life, the more perspective you have, the more calculated and curated your decisions can be. If you're looking at things like this versus like this, it's a total game changer. And I think whatever it is you're reading, as long as it's broadening your perspective, it's going to enable you to make meaningful decisions. And those decisions in turn will change how you interact with the rest of the world.
Is there a book that comes to mind? Anything you're reading right now?
So I would say I really like books that focus on psychology, that focus on how to communicate with people. I think that so many people leave things on the table because they can't articulate. They can't verbalize. They can't vocalize. So Crucial Conversations comes to mind. Understanding psychology, interpersonal dynamics, understanding the essence of communication is important, because despite what's in your heart, what's in your mind, if you can't get it out in a meaningful way, you can't make that impact. So I like books where I learn how to communicate and articulate myself in a way that's meaningful, where I don't leave anything on the table. I hate leaving things on the table because then I can regret those things.
What's an off day look like for Ricky Rathore? What do you do in your spare time? What do you do for fun?
Off day, I like walking around. My wife enjoys walking. I love walking wherever she takes me. So we'll walk around. We'll travel from time to time. I love cooking. I'll try different things that somehow work out.
Yeah.
So an off day for me is
what's the best dish you can make?
What's that?
What's the best dish you can put together?
I make a mean yogurt.
Okay.
Like Indian style yogurt.
Okay, interesting.
It's good. I'll send you.
I would love to try some. Yeah.
So I put cucumbers and tomatoes and cilantro.
Okay, amazing. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
What I'm
Okay,
talking
yeah,
about. So,
those things are really good.
so I do that. I love that. I make a mean potato. I can make some good baked potatoes. So things like that. That's my off day is just, it's resetting, maybe reading something nice, resetting and just taking in the world for a minute, going out for a walk, going to a park, maybe going to a different destination. That's an off day.
Cool. I like that. I want to finish off this episode. We've had some great conversations with one important question. Who is Ricky Rathore to the world?
To the world, I think if I had to put into words what I want the world to take away when I leave, I want to leave an impact, and I want to make a difference in the lives of others, and I want to touch people in a way that they want to make a positive impact in the lives of other people. I want this to continue on as a legacy where we become a better place. I think at the end of it, the impacts we make are for the betterment of society, and I want to see society succeed. I want to see us triumph and overcome whatever's coming down the road. God knows what's coming down the road.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights. I think that's incredibly powerful. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in for another episode of More Than a Sale. We had the very own Ricky Rathore himself. You got to watch out for this one.